I should be live. I'm just preparing a few things while I wait for people to show up. So if you can see this, let me know. Just quickly peeling some onions and such. So for this week, I'm gonna do my veg, and I will make some roasted salsa. That's why the oven is preheating. You might hear that in the background. And I'm also gonna make a curry paste. So for my menu, for lunch today, I had some sandwiches. And for dinner, I'm going to just do a charcuterie and cheese board because I was in the mood for it. So then tomorrow it's Meatless Monday, so for lunch I'm gonna have some fake chicken and with some asparagus or spinach, one of the two. And then for dinner I'm gonna make some vegan tacos using some of the salsa. And then on Tuesday, I'm gonna do a low-carb stir-fry for lunch with just broccoli and lots of veg. And then for dinner, I'm gonna do some quesadillas. And again, I will use some of that roasted salsa. Then on Wednesday, I'm gonna do some chicken drumettes or wings in the air fryer, and with it I'm gonna have spinach or asparagus depending on which of the two I use on Monday. And then for dinner I'll do a chicken curry with the curry paste I'm gonna prepare. And then on Thursday some stuffed peppers with some ground chicken and lots of veggies. And then for dinner on Thursday, I will do noodles with chicken. And on Friday, for lunch, I'm gonna do a stir fry with some tuna. A low-carb stir-fry, just using up the vegetables that I have left by then. And for dinner, I'm gonna do some sushi with salmon and cucumber, and we'll see what else. Maybe some ginger. So first, I'm just going to take the ends off these shallots and just roughly cut them and put in my little food processor. Just to help that along. Some of these tiny little shallots I'll quickly peel. Normally I would do this before a video or a stream because no one wants to watch me peel, but I had a little trouble setting up the stream because it's my very first stream. So I ran a little bit late. I didn't want to miss the 3 p.m. start time. So I'm just going to quickly peel these. throw them in a little baking tray. So let me just get this done real quick, and then I'll start answering some of the questions that you left during the week. And maybe people will start showing up for the live chat as well. I don't have a lot of subscribers, so there's a good chance that not that many will be here. So at least I have some answers that were asked ahead of time. But the reason I kind of wanted to do this was, well, one, it would be nice to have people interact. And at the same time, 2 weeks ago, I had a problem with recording, and all the footage was unusable. What ended up happening is there was a problem with my memory card, and it just couldn't keep up with the write speeds. So it's a card that I've used for a couple of weeks now, and it was all fine, but yeah, that just resulted in a lot of like slowing down, speeding up, skipping frames, and I tried to edit and get it to work, but it just, yeah, it was too badly corrupted. So I thought if I do a live, then I don't have to worry about the footage being destroyed, and it's also nice to not have to edit sometime. So, so I have my onions there. I'm gonna take a whole head of garlic, just cut it in half. Then here I have some aluminium foil. Just gonna quickly wrap that in there, and that is just quickly gonna cook. Then I have some peppers. These are sweet peppers. Just gonna throw in there. I have lots of these little cherry tomatoes. I don't know how well you can see. Just gonna throw those in. And then I have some different chilies. I have some jalapenos that I'm just gonna throw in whole. And some these cayenne. So I'll throw those in. And now I'll just throw these in the oven, which is on full whack, and I'm just gonna roast them for about 20 minutes. So let me set a timer. I apologize if I set your Alexa off. Alexa, set a timer for 20 minutes. So, and yeah, we'll just get back to the curry paste. So I have another jalapeno. I'm just gonna take the seeds out real quick. Rough chop and throw them in. And then these other chilies, I'm just gonna roughly chop, leave the seeds in. It's all good. Just to help the food processor along. And you know what? I have one more jalapeno, so I'll just throw them in as well. Okay. We'll just keep working on peppers. I'm just gonna cut this one in half, clean it out. I'll use this half for stuffed peppers. Do the same with this yellow pepper. And the other halves, I'm just going to cut up. And what I am actually going to do, since this is my first live, I will quickly check the stream. And okay, there's definitely a delay. Since this is my first, yep. So that is working just fine. So yeah, we'll get back to the peppers. Just gonna cube them, nothing too fancy. So do the same for the yellow. So, you know what? Let's get to our first question that was asked. Sorry, I didn't write names down, but you'll know it's you. Someone asked what my favorite Nirvana song is, probably because in some of my videos I've been wearing different Nirvana shirts. And my favorite Nirvana song is Drain You. And then honorable mention for the song that made me decide to play bass. That is the intro to Dive. When I was in high school, we had a chance to learn an instrument, and you could pick whatever you wanted, within reason, obviously. I was torn between guitar and bass, and then I heard the intro to Dive, which is just magnificent. And that's when I decided I want to play bass. I very rarely play. I'm okay, I'm not amazing at it, but I like doing it. So, and then my second favorite is probably a cover. I don't know if you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm just cutting some onions for the stir fry and for the quesadillas. So my favorite and second favorite song is probably a cover. That's D7. That's their covers of a Wiper song, and that's also with Nirvana. It's kind of the foundation of my taste in music. When I was growing up, I wasn't like too big into music. I would listen to whatever was in the charts, but it was not like, something I really cared that much about. But when I was 12 years old, we went to a little school trip, and one of my friends brought an album from his older brother. We all brought albums. He just brought that one, and that was Nevermind. And from that moment, I was hooked. And one of the things with Nirvana, they're always very clear about their influences. So, like their cover of D7, for example, by the Wipers. And then I started listening to what they were listening to. So the Wipers, like punk and all that stuff. And it just grew from there. So even if I don't listen to Nirvana as much anymore as I used to, because, there are other bands that are like the flavor of the week. Like the past couple of years, I've been really into things like Boy Sets Fire or Evergreen Terrace, that kind of stuff. Like post-hardcore stuff. But, yeah, it was also Nirvana that got me into the Beatles because, like I said, my parents weren't, just like me, weren't really into music, so I wasn't really exposed to things like the Beatles and other older stuff. But Nirvana was always like very open and passionate about the Beatles, and especially John Lennon, so that made me listen to that and all kinds of other stuff. And yeah, it's like the cornerstone of everything. So that was a good question. I'm just peeling some garlic real quick. And the garlic is going in the stir fries, in the quesadillas, in my curry paste. So another question I had was, have you always liked cooking? I didn't when I was growing up, I didn't really think anything of it. And then when I was in, what you call it, college, I guess, university, the system of higher education here is not exactly the same as in the U.S., for example. But it's kind of I've done my bachelor degree in accounting and business administration. So while I was doing that, we went on a trip for about a week where we did like team building exercises like you would later on when you're working for a company on that kind of level, just to prepare yourself so you were also already familiar with the things like roles in a team, what your personality is, the whole model, the IN, all that stuff. So, and we did a bunch of challenges, and one of the challenges was each group of, I think it was like 5 or 6, was in one bungalow, and every bungalow had to compete against the other bungalows in cooking a meal for all the staff, the ones that were monitoring us. So you can imagine a bunch of college students who've never really cooked that much in their lives, but we did pretty well. I think we ended up second. So and that made me actually kind of enjoy cooking. So I was still living at home while I was studying, and I started cooking Sundays, holidays, that kind of stuff. So a few years later, when I had my degree and I started working and I bought my own house, I already had a bit of a cooking experience. But I didn't really meal plan back then. I would just go to the store and just buy whatever I was feeling like that day. And I just did a lot of shortcuts. I would use like pre-cut vegetables and that kind of stuff. Lots of stir fries, lots of tortillas, because those are all so easy to make. But then I was like, I'm spending a lot of money on pre-cut vegetables, and I could easily do that myself. So I got a V-slicer because my knife skills were not that great yet, nor were my knives very great at the time. So I would just prepare a lot of vegetables in bulk. And back then that was just for dinners because I wasn't diagnosed as diabetic yet. But I was at risk because of my size, because of family history. My dad was badly diabetic. My grandmother on my mother's side was diabetic, so it runs in the family. I have my weight and everything, so I was very much at risk. So when, after a few years of pre-diabetes, I got the diagnosis, I wasn't like too shocked. And I just, I've always monitored what I ate, so it was not a big deal. Until over the years, my glucose levels just kept slowly rising. So, and it came to the point where my doctor said that if my HbA1c keeps going up, HbA1c, then you need to start taking insulin, which I did not want to do because, well, first of all, it's not the best solution. Like, okay, this is not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. While I throw some cloves of garlic in with the curry paste. But if you don't know about diabetes, this is like the quick cliff notes, as I'm just chopping more garlic. Let's start with when you eat carbs, that comes into your body, it gets absorbed into your cells and either gets burnt up or it gets turned into storage like fat. And there's a hormone in your body called insulin that makes your body start to absorb the glucose in the cells for use. And when you're diabetic, either you don't make insulin, or that's type 1, or type 2, you make insulin, but your cells just get desensitized and less, it takes more and more insulin to get a response. So you can take insulin, and for some people that's the only option. But what that basically does is, by taking extra insulin to compensate for your cells not really taking up the insulin that well, you're just bombarding your body with more insulin, get them to work, but that just desensitizes them more and more. So insulin is generally not the best solution if you can actually do something about the problem, which is lower your blood sugar levels. So instead of going on insulin, I decided to cut about half of my intake of carbs, because I don't generally eat breakfast, so I only have like 2 meals a day. I'm just going to cut some spring onions. So lunch and dinner, and after some experimentation, I found the easiest for me was to just have low carb lunches and regular dinners. I could have just decreased the amount of carbs in each meal, but yeah, for me it was just easier to just cut them out completely for one of the meals and then have regular meals for dinner. So, but that not having like sandwiches or anything like that, like low carb usually means like having to actually cook something. So that led to a lot more food prep. So I invested in some good knives over the years, and I just started to do more and more and more prep. So kind of rushed through that. Yeah, also a large part is with food prep is just reducing waste and like meal planning and stuff. So I have some asparagus. I'm just gonna snap them and save the good part. So meal planning for me is not just making it easy for myself, and I can just put some dinner on the table in a few minutes. It's also like I'm by myself. Like I can't get through like a whole head of cabbage in one meal. Not even half of a cabbage. So I have to like plan around. If I use something like that, like what else am I gonna use as well? So take for example, I think next week I'm gonna do some pork belly, but I can't just make like a tiny amount of pork belly. That's just not really gonna work. So I'll plan another meal that goes with it. So in this case, I'll also do some ramen, which would work really well because I can actually use there's some lemongrass, so I'm just gonna give a rough chop and get rid of the really tough outer leaves. So I can use the stock, the braising liquid, as the base for a stock for the ramen. So, and then maybe I'll do some coleslaw. I haven't fully decided yet. So this just goes in with the rest for the curry paste. So, and if I'll probably do some coleslaw, and then I'll use some other parts of the cabbage that I need for that for a stir fry, and I just kind of plan around that. Next up is cilantro. I have some stems left over from last week, and some whole stems and leaves that I bought this week. So the stems I'm just gonna quickly cut, and those are perfect with the curry paste. And the leaves, I'm just going to give a good chop. And those are going to go in my salsa. And I have a little bit of stem from these that I'll just throw in with the curry paste as well. So there you go with that. So yeah, and with meal planning and how I plan for groceries, I usually start with what do I have in my pantry and in my fridge that need to be used up. And then I start going through the sales. We have quite a few supermarkets here, and each has their own weekly sales. So I just go through that and see whatever I need, and if that gives me any inspiration for some meals. And then I go back. I'm just cutting some carrots into little medallions for the stir fries. So yeah, when I have the inspirations from what's on sale, I fill in the rest of my meals, like what do I feel like, what do I need to use up, because like I said, if I do a pork belly, like what else am I going to make with pork belly or cabbage or whatever. And after I finish my meal plan, I go back to my shopping list and check my pantry and everything, like what else do I need based on what I have planned, what do I need from the shops. And then every Saturday I go shopping. Usually I bring my nephew with me ever since he was a little baby. And we always go to the street market because in general they have the best prices for produce, with some exceptions like mainly peppers, chilies, cilantro. That is cheaper at the Middle Eastern market, so that's where I get those things. And I also get a lot of things like chicken there because they are the cheapest. And then how many other supermarkets I go to kind of depends. Like sometimes I just go to one. I always go to Plus. That's my closest supermarket. I've actually worked at that location for 7 years while I was in high school and college, so I know that very well. I always go there. But if they have something I actually use on sale somewhere else, I buy those things elsewhere just to save some money. And that can be 0 stores, that can be 5 stores, it kind of depends. Usually it's like 2 or 3 supermarkets in total that I go to. And everything is really close by, so it's really no big deal. Shopping takes me about well, with my nephew, and we always like get something to eat and just look for some stores just for fun. You know, it takes about probably an hour and a half. But if I really wanted to, and it's just me, like most times, it like at most take me like an hour. Even if I have to go to the Middle Eastern market, the street market, and like 3 supermarkets, because everything is close by. So that's that. And I just Alexa, stop. Let's have a quick check after I throw this ginger in with the curry paste on our roasted veg. A little bit more. Alexa, set a timer for 10 minutes. So, yeah, that's really it for meal planning, I think. Yeah, it really depends on what's on sale, what I'm in the mood for. And that kind of ties in with someone asked, like, do you ever get tired or bored of the meal planning? The meal planning itself, sometimes, but not really that often. Because I know, I'm just taking some Napa cabbage, just taking some of the outer leaves off. And I'll cut those fine for a stir fry. Because I know it only takes me like 30 minutes, hour max, and it saves me so much time during the week. So I don't really mind doing it. There have been occasions, like when I was really sick or really busy, I'm like, oh, I really don't feel like doing it. But honestly, it's not that big of a deal. But then the meals I make or the meals I plan, do I get tired of those? Yes, sometimes. And that's also why I prep my ingredients and not my whole meals. So if I want to, I can still change things over. Like if I come home late and I just really want to get something on the table quick and, you know, not make like noodles and everything like that, I just want to get it in my mouth as soon as possible, I can always take like the same ingredients that I already have, like the same peppers, onions, chicken, whatever, and just chuck it in a tortilla and be done, you know? So I kind of plan that out. So the leafy part I've cut quite coarse, and then the stem part I'm going to cut a little finer. And also, I don't use it very often, but often on Friday I don't really plan, but I use that for leftovers. So if I have vegetables left over, I'll do a stir fry. If I don't really have vegetables left over, I might make like a quick tuna salad or something like that. So, but I built in some space, so if I really, really don't feel like something someday, or, you know, I'm not feeling well and I just want some carbs, which doesn't happen very often. It happened one time this past week, and it was probably the first time this year. Then I'll just move those ingredients that are left over. I'll move those to Friday and just use them then. So, and also what helps a lot, I'm just cutting some broccoli for the stir fries. You know, sometimes you have meals and like when you're in the mood for them, they're like the best thing ever. But you also know most other days when you're not super excited about it, they're kind of meh. You know what I'm talking about. I don't plan a lot of meals like that. A lot of the meals I plan are just like, there might be not the best thing I could ever have, but I'll always want to eat them, you know? Like a stir fry. Like, I like stir fries. I don't really get bored of them quickly or anything like that. So, you know, can I think of better things than a stir fry? Probably. But there's also a good chance that when that day comes that I need to eat it, I just don't want to. So that's just a quick little hack. And it also helps that I'm by myself. I don't really have to take other people into account, and, you know, I can just eat something even if I don't really feel like it. I'll still eat it. I'm not like super picky like some people. And what else? I have written down your questions. Oh, and something else with the meal prep and everything, and how I plan. I do a lot of theme nights. Because I'm by myself, I can have anything I want, which you would think be very easy, but I just find it gets a little hard, because if you can have anything you want, what do you actually want? So I started with Meatless Mondays, just because I had some coupons for some vegan or vegetarian products. So I started using those. I'm like, you know what? I'll just keep doing Meatless Mondays because I really like meat. And if I didn't make like a specific Meatless Monday or any other day, I would most likely not eat a lot of vegetarian stuff. So it just gives me an excuse. And that's also the reason for Fish Fridays, really, because I don't care much for fish. I don't dislike it as much. It's just like there's better things. But because I didn't really care much for it, I also never experimented to see if there was fish that I actually did like. So let me just put this away, because I usually save the stems from the broccoli, because you can make like broccoli rice with that. Will I actually do that? No, I think I'll save it. And I have some cabbage left over. So yeah, I was saying, since I started doing like Fish Fridays, I've been trying a lot more different kinds of fish. And it's still not my favorite meat in the world. I'd much rather have something like chicken, because it's much more versatile, I think. But I don't mind it nearly as much anymore as I used to. And then one other theme day is Taco Tuesdays, and that got started. Like I said, I used to cook Sundays for the family. After I moved out, I kept doing that. And I also came over one day a week, and for the past few years, that was on Tuesday. And I would cook for either my dad, because my mom had passed away, or for my dad, my brother, and my brother's family. So, and all of them are very picky eaters, so I had a very limited pool of things to make. So that kind of made it easier to plan, because you already knew like there's like 10 dishes that everyone will eat. And then my dad passed away about almost 2 years ago now. So I don't have dinner there anymore, and I can have literally anything I want. So I'm like, what do I want? And kind of to cope with that, I decided, Taco Tuesday is a nice alliteration, so I'll start doing Taco Tuesdays. But I have found that I do make the same kind of tacos over and over again. So if you have any recommendations for that, please do let me know. I like make regular beef tacos. I make a lot of fajitas lately. That's kind of my thing apparently, because they're so simple to make, and it's peppers, onions, garlic, things that I already always have on hand anyway and prepped. So yeah, if you're struggling with what you want to eat, do a theme day and just give you some inspiration. What else have you asked me? Some people have asked about the kitchen gear I use. My knives, they're all global. Like, I want to say probably around the time that my mom passed away. So that was 12, almost 13 years ago now. No, 12 years. Yeah, almost 13 years ago. Around that time, I invested in a lot of knives. They're a big purchase. Like, these global knives are amazing. I can highly recommend it to anyone, but only do that if you have the money to spend. There are other options out there that are a lot cheaper. But I'm a big fan of Japanese knives in general, because they're just so much sharper, and they keep their edge so much longer. This is the 20 centimeter or 8-inch chef's knife. That is my go-to for the past couple of months, years. Over the like 13 years or so that I've had these, I've kind of went back and forth between the vegetable knife and the chef's knife. So they're both just as good for what I do, because a lot of it is what I do is vegetables, or maybe something like chicken or something, so I don't need a very heavy duty knife. What I am thinking about, actually, because I'm a big guy, this 8-inch is, it's not too small, but I think I could go a size up. So, but since these knives are very expensive and this one works just fine, I'm not in any rush to change it, but I have been thinking about what I could do with a bigger knife. And yeah, the other knife I really use a lot is a little paring knife. To be honest, most of the time I just use a very cheap one, like I have here, the one that you just buy for €1 or $1, probably for $2. But on camera, I usually use this one because it matches my knife. Yes, it's stupid, but... And then the other knife I use pretty regularly is just a bread knife. So, Alexa, stop. And that is what we wanted. We can turn our oven off now. You can see, let me actually get some tongs because this will be hot. But you can see it nice char on the skin there. So we're just going to let that cool so I can actually handle that. So yeah, knives. I do have more knives, but I have a smaller vegetable knife that I don't really use that often. Sometimes other people use it. Like a few months ago, I think now, Holly joined me in the kitchen and she used this knife because she's a lot smaller than I am, so this was a better size for her. But otherwise, I mostly just grab that when my other knife is dirty and I don't feel like washing it. So, and I have a nice ham knife or salmon knife. which I used to use slightly more because back when my mom was still alive, I kind of went all out for Christmas and did like a butterflied turkey breast, where I just butterflied that, stuffed it with ham and cheese, and rolled it up, tied it up, and that knife is perfect for butterflying like big things of meat and everything like that. But yeah, I don't do that kind of stuff very often anymore, to be honest. But it's nice to have. And then the cleaver, I don't really use because I don't do a lot of big joints of meat. And actually, when I bought it, I used to have like a Chinese style cleaver that I would use quite a bit. And I thought they was kind of similar, but this is way too thick and way too heavy for that. So I might still get a cleaver at some point because I do like cutting with that, like a Chinese style cleaver. But, you know, no rush. And then, oh, someone asked about my graters. Here's the thing about me. I don't really care a lot about stuff, but I do like having like complete sets of things. So, you know, I'm not a minimalist because I do have a lot of stuff, but you know, I don't buy stuff just for having stuff unless it is to complete a set that I have parts of already. So I have a lot of graters. I would say this is a fine and coarse. Either of these will work. Having both is nice, but I don't say the difference is big enough that you really need to have both. Like, you know, if you can only afford one, just get one of these two. And then the rest, the extra coarse, very rarely used. Just like the once in a blue moon when I bake something, I might grate something with the extra coarse one. Or I used to bake a lot more when I bought a couple of these. But of course, over the past few years, since I've been like diabetic, I try to keep my sugar intake down a lot. So this large shaver for like chocolate, hardly ever use it anymore. Or the two-way ribbon cutter, hardly ever use it. And these are my latest two additions. I do use these pretty regularly. This is a slicer, and you know, for things like a cucumber slice or something, it's just very easy to do with this, or carrots. So I take this out sometimes, and this is a little julienne slicer, which I like because I'm okay with a knife, but very fine julienne things like carrots or something for a coleslaw, I'd much prefer that on this little julienne slicer, or it will take like forever to do by hand, as I'm throwing everything on the floor or on the countertops. So yeah, just I would say, get the fine grater, and if you can't find that, or you do a lot of coarse things, then get the coarser one, and get the julienne slicer. If you have those two or three, then you know you're far away already. And then another gadget that you see me use a lot, you know, I don't have it here right now, that's my Ninja Foodi. Oh yeah, I should probably get this blended. When I did more and more meal planning and food prepping, I got a Ninja Foodi, and I love that thing. So much that because I do so much food prepping, I actually got two. So I'll use them concurrently a lot of the time. I'm sorry if this is going to be loud, I'm just going to blitz this up. Some fresh turmeric in this will be very nice as well, but that's kind of hard to find here. Like sometimes the store will have it, but a lot of the times they don't. Like I would have to go like to specifically like Asian shop or something like that. So I didn't add turmeric this time, but if I have it, I definitely can. I'll just add some dried turmeric when I make my curry. It's not the same, but it's good enough. That's probably fine enough. I'll just take a little glass jar. I don't actually need a glass in particular this time. When you use fresh turmeric, definitely use like a glass container to store it and not plastic, because it will stain the plastic and you won't be able to get rid of it. Yeah, since this doesn't have any turmeric in it, I'm just gonna grab a different container that has a slightly wider mouth, so that makes it a lot easier. To transfer. So yeah, this curry paste, I just fry that in some oil. I'll add some tomatoes, because I prepped tomatoes now for the salsa, but I have more tomatoes in the fridge that I'll just use for this. So just fry that off, a little turmeric, some salt, and some coconut milk, and some chicken. That will be my curry for Wednesday. Now that can go in the fridge. Did I not grab a lid? I swear I did. So, what else? What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so the Ninja Foodi. Yeah, I really love that thing. That makes things a lot easier, and it's made me make things that I didn't before, like ribs, for example, that I didn't make that often because they take a long time. But if you pressure cook them first and then air fry them, or pressure cook them and then just finish them on the grill, they're amazing. Or pork belly, just pressure cook that for like an hour and it's completely tender, and you just air fry it and slice it, and it's just beautiful. So I highly recommend the Ninja Foodi. What else? I like the Ninja stuff. Like, I don't make a lot of like ice cream or anything. I don't really eat it, but I would like to try out that Ninja Creamy that I've seen sometime and just experiment with that. But yeah, I'm fighting off a sneeze, by the way, if you think why I'm acting funny, because I keep feeling it come back up and then it goes away. So that's like a lot of the stuff I use, like my cutting board. I bought that from Lidl, which if you don't have a Lidl where you live, it's very similar to Aldi. They're direct competitors. And it's very cheap. It's just the bamboo one, but I thought it looked really nice on camera. I actually bought two just in case. And my food processor and blender and stand mixer combo thing is a Kenwood, which I had one for like 15 years, but it broke a few years ago, and I just bought the exact same model, so all the accessories that I now have two of. So that makes food prep a lot easier. So all of the veg I roasted is still a little bit too hot to handle, but I can already start a little bit on this. So here are my cilantro leaves that I cut up. And here I have some lime juice. That's been a while ago, probably right before the summer. I bought a big box of limes, and I just juiced them all and froze them into little ice cubes. So whenever I need some lime juice, I just defrost them. So I'll throw that in. that means I'm now done with the rest of these fresh ingredients, so I can quickly get them in the fridge. So, before I forget, I'll also add a little bit of cumin, probably about a tablespoon. I'll just taste it and see if it needs more in a bit. And a pinch of salt. So, what else have you asked me? Well, you've asked a little bit about me, so I don't really know what you want to know. But I am Dutch. I've lived here my entire life. I'm just taking these shallots and just dumping them in. They're nice and roasted. I live in Lelystad, which is right in the center of the country. If you look at a map of the Netherlands, there is a big island right in the middle. That's where I live, in the capital, in Lelystad. And it's the biggest man-made island in the world by quite a margin. It's like 25 times bigger than the next man-made island. So it was drained probably I want to say the 60s is when they first started draining it, and in the late 70s the first people moved here, other than the workers that stayed here while they worked. So yeah, this is all very new. My parents are originally from Amsterdam, but at the time there was a really bad housing crisis in Amsterdam, and you couldn't really find a place to live. So when they had plans for children, they moved here. Everything was just being built. I'm actually not born in this town. I was born in a town called Harderwijk, because when I was born, they were still building the hospital. So there was nothing here when my parents moved here. And over time, we got the shopping center, like the downtown, the hospital, more housing, shops, everything like that. So I'm just taking my chilies and peppers and de-seeding them while I'm talking to you. So yeah, my parents moved here in the late 70s, and I was born in 1979. So yeah, since the 70s, they also built a town here called Almere, which is right in between Amsterdam and here. And since most people that lived here were still tied to Amsterdam, because the vast majority were from there, just like my parents. They were still very much tied to there, so a lot of them, when Almere was built in the mid to late 80s, they moved there instead. So this is the capital of the province, but it's not the biggest city by far, because I think there's about 80,000 people here at the moment, and Almere has over 300,000. So, but yeah, I've lived here all my life, happily, and this is I can be in Amsterdam in about 40 minutes, something like that. There's a direct train from here to either downtown or to the airport, so it's very easy to get there. I used to work in Amsterdam for a couple of years, and I would just take the train there every morning. I really like trains. I do not like driving. I have my license. I used to have a car years ago, but I never ever used it, because I don't know, why would you drive if you can just take your bike? It's so much easier. my car had a flat tire, and instead of fixing it, it just sat in the driveway for a year. Because I would just take my bike anyway. It was not worth the hassle of fixing my flat tire on my car. So that's when I decided it was time to get rid of it. Do I miss having a car? Very rarely. Like, if I need to buy some furniture or something, you know, it's convenient to have a car. But it's not really essential. And for those very limited amount of times that you actually do need one, you can just rent a car. And everything here is built for bikes, so, you know, it's just very convenient. And yeah, I've always enjoyed riding my bike everywhere. Like, I go on a 8-kilometer or 5-mile commute, so that's 10 miles or 16 kilometers a day. Not a big deal at all. And like other places I've worked at, you know, we're slightly closer. I cycled there as well. And if I ever need to go out of town, I'll just take the train because that's much faster than driving. I'm taking these tomatoes now, just taking little stems off because I left them on before roasting. So yeah, I just like my bike. In other countries, I guess it's not that common or convenient. Like, I think I said it before that I go to different supermarkets, and like I think I actually showed it in a video once of when I took you shopping. That if I stand at one point, I can see where the street market usually is on Saturday, and if I turn to the left, there's the right in front of me is the Middle Eastern market that I go to every week. And if I turn another quarter turn, there's another Middle Eastern market and the big supermarket. And if I turn around again, there's another supermarket just, you know, like 100 yards away. So everything is easily done by bike or on foot. You know, and it's not just that, it's also like I've had some of my coworkers in the past like complain like, oh, I have a problem with my my car, and it's like it's costing me like $1,200 to get it fixed. And if I had with my bike, if something was damaged and it cost $1,200 to fix, I would just get a new bike for like $500, and that will last me like 5 years. So, you know, I have the occasional flat tire, but other than that, the expense is very little, and it's a nice way to get some exercise in. Well, yeah, and that kind of leads me to maybe I should tell you why I started YouTube, or actually more like why I started Instagram, and that kind of led to YouTube. It's because I am fat. I've been fat my entire life. There's no need to sugarcoat it. Like, I am officially obese. And people, when they see me, always assume like I just eat junk food every day and sit on my butt and like do nothing. Even though the person that said that last time, right before I started Instagram, I was the only person in the entire company that came to work by bike. But because I'm fat, I must eat unhealthy and not do anything active. But that's not true. Like I said, 10 miles a day on my bike. All my shopping I do by bike. I think I mentioned in a few videos that I do 10,000 steps every single day for the past, like, I want to say like 3.5 years. Since June 2019, I think it was. So I think yesterday was day 1270 of not missing a single day of doing 10,000 steps. So I am quite active, and as you can see from my videos, I'm not perfect, but I eat relatively healthy, I would say. Not a lot of processed food, not a lot of added sugar, anything like that. So I got a little bit annoyed with always having to like kind of defend myself, you know what I mean? You know, I know I don't have to, because, you know, people can think whatever they want. I'm just taking out these cloves of garlic. So that's why I started doing Instagram, because, you know, I didn't have to explain myself all the time. I could just post it, and it's also a way to keep myself accountable, because I might say I eat healthy, but maybe I really don't. So I just post it, and if you see me eat like just a lot of junk, call me out on it, you know? It's a way to keep myself accountable. And also, I have seen a dietitian in the past, but that didn't really work out because all she could say was Atkins, Atkins, Atkins. And if I said, what about this, what about that? Yeah, but you could just do Atkins. And I was like, why am I paying like, I don't know, like $50 for a meeting for you to just say Atkins and just give me something that I could have looked up online within like 30 seconds, you know? But if I ever do start seeing a dietitian again, then I also have a nice little log of everything I eat. So that's why I started Instagram. And I like watching things like grocery hauls and meal prep and that kind of things. So I was like, you know what? I'll start doing videos like that. And I started doing them on IGTV, because Instagram and IGTV were quite separate back then. But yeah, Instagram was just not really the platform for like longer form content. So that's when I decided, you know what? For longer form things like actual like meal prepping and that kind of stuff, I'll just do that on YouTube. And you know, for me, it's completely normal to ride my bike and get all my groceries, but for a lot of people it's not, and people seem to enjoy watching that because those are some of my most viewed videos. So, you know, I thought I'll just do those on YouTube, and that's how I got started. So, and be sure to get all the juice from roasting in there as well. And I was just wearing the gloves because of the chilies. Like, I didn't use habaneros this time. Usually I do, so they weren't too spicy, but gloves are always like a good idea. So I'm just gonna blend this up. So sorry if this is gonna be loud again. I don't know how well the microphone picks that up. Just get a spoon, give that a little taste. Nice and spicy, plenty of cumin, plenty of lime. Do it need salt? No, I don't think it actually needs salt even. So that's perfect. So I can just transfer that to a container as well. So that is it from start to finish. I started a little after 3 and it's just after 4 now, so that took me an hour to get everything done for the week. I just have to throw everything in a pan now when I need to use it and be done in minutes. So thank you for watching. If you like this, I do these videos every Sunday, usually not live, but if you like it, leave a comment and I might do it more often, but probably I'll wait until I have a few more like actual people that are subscribed and can join in, because I don't think anyone joined in live. So thank you for the questions beforehand, so I had something to talk about. But yeah, check out these videos. I have a whole playlist if you like this kind of stuff. Sometimes I just make a few things like my vegetables, sometimes like I make my sauce and things like that, or things like stews, soups. I try to prepare them ahead of time too, like things that take a long time and are also better if you make them the day before or a few days before. So, and yeah, you can also find grocery hauls every Saturday, and about once a month I actually film how I get all my groceries and go out on my bike. So leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe, and thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you again another time.